6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, are we live?
We should be live.
Okay, then at this time, I'd like to call the meeting of the Unit 19C Sheep Committee to order. First off, let's start with the introduction of the committee members and guests. Jake.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Jake Fletcher, Talkeetna.
And Stosh.
Good morning, everyone. Stosh Hoffman, Bethel.
Okay, and I'm Jerry Burnett. I'm from Juneau. And from the department, I believe we have Deputy Commissioner Mulligan.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. This is Ben Mulligan from the Commissioner's Office.
And the Division of Wildlife Conservation, Ryan.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and board members and members of the public. Ryan Scott with the Division of Wildlife Conservation in Juneau.
And board support.
Good morning. This is Christy Tibbles, the board's executive director, and also online assisting with this is Annie Bartholomew and Henry Alicia from board support.
Okay, and the subsistence section, I see we have Carolyn.
Good morning, board members. This is Caroline Brown. I am the research director for subsistence.
And from the Department of Law, it's like Aaron.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Aaron Peterson, covering this meeting for Ms. Brooking this morning.
Okay, and I see we do not have anyone from the Department of Public Safety on at this time.
We have Mr. Pappas online, and we also have Natalie
and then George Pappas from, go ahead.
Good morning, sir. George Pappas, Office of Subsistence Management, State Subsistence Liaison. It's great to be here. I'm here to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, the purpose of this is an organizational meeting to elect a chair, develop a committee chart statement for the 19C Sheep Committee. The committee will also discuss the process of forming a working group for future management of Dall sheep in Unit 19C. Public comments were solicited for this committee meeting, and all meeting material, including the comments and a draft charge statement, are posted on the committee meeting website. First order of business here is to elect a committee chair. Do we have a volunteer for that? If not, a nomination.
Mr. Chair, this is
yes.
Sorry, delay. I volunteer if no one else wants to. I'd be happy to do it.
Okay. Jake, do you have any objection to that?
I have no objection at all.
I have no objection to that. So without objection, Stosh will be our committee chair. And at this point, do you need a break before we go on, or are you ready to go?
Mr. Chair, I'm ready to go.
Okay, go ahead, dude. It's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Jerry. So you guys are gonna have to bear with me here. I'm not as smooth as Jerry on this, so I'm gonna fumble my way through this. So today's Monday, August 7th, 2023. I've just been appointed the chairman for the sheep working group for 19C. And this moves us to number 3, to develop a charge statement for the committee.
Okay, this is Jerry. I did draft a charge statement for consideration of the committee as a starting point. And so Stosh, if you want to take it from there, other committee members' comments. I do have a couple of comments on my draft. The two things that I failed to put in the draft that I think we should be adding to it One has to do with the board's commitment to conservation and growing the population if possible, and the other has to
Recording
do
in
with,
progress.
the other has to do with the fact that there is a subsistence priority for sheep in Unit 19C, and I think that should be in the charge statement. But beyond that, that's my only comments on it.
Thank you for that, Jerry. Did you send a copy of your draft to Jake and I?
Well, the draft was sent, Christy should have sent the draft to you, to both of you already, and also to the department. Go ahead, Christy.
And it is posted on the meeting website.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Jerry. Jake, anyone have any questions for Jerry about the letter?
Hey, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I've read it. I think it's really good. I think it's to the point, but adding those two things probably is very important.
Thank you, Jake. Any other questions for Jerry? If no questions, thank you, Jerry, for writing the letter of the charge statement for the Sheep Working Committee. And I guess I'll move along to number 4, discussion of the process of forming the working group for the future of the Bell Sheep Management 19C. Go ahead, Christy.
Oh, yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Hoffman, but before you do, I guess I see this as a draft, and maybe it is between now and the next committee meeting, it will be finalized and the committee could review it again and at that point adopt it, unless the committee wants to go ahead and adopt it now with those additions. And I can work with Member Burnett to add those additions, and then we'll just distribute it again. But any preference on how to proceed with that charge statement?
No, we could take action now if the committee desires for that, adding those two.
Is it all right if the committee acts on it at the next meeting to finalize it in case there other things come up, or? And then you all have a chance to review it one more time with those additions.
Okay, that sounds good. I'm okay with that, Christy. That makes sense. Let's do that.
So I'll just record that as the committee's intent to take final action take an action on it at the next meeting with those additions.
Thank you, Christy. Okay, any other discussion for the working group from anyone? Go ahead, Jake.
Hey, thanks a whole bunch, Chairman Hoffman. I guess I've never been a part of one of these, groups that you formulate a working group. Could you give me a few of the nuts and bolts how that works? Do us three kind of just hash out who should be a part of it, or specific names or specific people that are entities that should be represented?
Yeah, Jake, I think that's what we're going to kind of start to formulate here, the ground or the framework for this sheep committee. And that's kind of what this, what's going to be the preliminary stages of this meeting, along with several other things. Jerry, do you have any thoughts on this?
On the formation of the working group?
Yes, and how you think how you thought it should.
Yeah, I think we should, I would suggest that we, I know that in a previous letter to the board, you had suggested, or to me, you had suggested that we include certain specific people, like someone from the chair of the local AC and or his designee. We may want to include the chair or designee from other ACs like Fairbanks and Anchorage. And then we want to make sure we have a resident hunter, landowners, and guides who operate in the area and are familiar with the area and familiar with sheep. So I believe the last time this was done, there were specific groups, interest groups that were included, and then a notice went out to the public soliciting people from the public who wanted to be a part of the membership. And that notice, then those letters of interest from those people were brought back to the committee, and the committee made final choices as to who was going to be on the working group. But one thing I think we need to consider is how large the working group is, and we may want to have some input from Mr. Scott, who has had the opportunity to work in one of these working groups before, how big it can be and make it work.
Okay, Jerry. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. And also, we probably, just to name a couple other stakeholders for this, would be someone from our federal counterparts, and then also someone, a conservationist group, someone who non-hunting group as well. With that being said, go ahead, Jake.
Thanks. And as Jerry pointed out earlier, I think maybe a subsistence hunter would be appropriate too to put on.
Yes, I agree. All right, Mr. Scott, do you have anything to add to this preliminary discussions on the working group committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a lot. I I didn't keep count of how many folks we just named off or how many organizations, maybe half a dozen, sounded like here and there. I think the key is going to be keeping it small enough to make progress. I have no disagreements with any of the folks that are organizations people have well pointed out. I think that'll be important to try to get the consensus. It also will, that'll help the financial aspect of this as well. Keeping it down to a dollar will get us there a little bit better money. I guess I would add too, our staff will be available for the biological information. I don't see us, I don't think we're really committee members, but we will be fully available to you.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. One big thing that I think is very critical to this whole process and to the success of this is education, and I don't know about the others, but I would really want to start off knowing as much as we can about whatever some of us committee members really want to hone in on. For myself, just to kind of start off with where we are exactly as far as surveys and numbers in 19C, and kind of build our way up with that. I think the more knowledge and more information we have, the better we can respond or react to how we want to form this group.
Certainly, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, certainly we have that, just a point of interest. Surveys are recently conducted out in Unit 19C. All the board members and the public largely has seen a whole bunch of data and information on 19C over the last couple of board and game meetings. So we'll have that information readily available as the most recent survey information.
Go ahead, Jake.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess something for us to think about too, a way to maybe keep this group a little bit smaller. So as everybody stated, we can still make progress, but still have, you know, a lot of input from the public and different user groups is to have like invited public testimony, perhaps. I don't know if that's something we want to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, Jake, I think that, I don't know, that would be something we should do. I don't know what time frame we should do this. And but yes, I agree with you. Okay, I'm kind of what else do we need, Jerry, to move forward with this?
Well, I think what we need to do probably is all get our thinking caps on. You work with the department, and we'll and we need to schedule another meeting where we can kind of finalize where we are. I don't think if we're going to send something out to the public soliciting interest in this, I think we need to wait till after sheep season. But we probably should just.
Jerry, you're on mute. Still on mute.
Jerry, we lost you.
Okay, now
You're
you're
on
there.
mute.
I'm here.
We just missed like the last sentence you were saying. Wait until after sheep season and then.
Well, I think we should have a meeting fairly soon to decide who we're going to ask to be on this committee and how we're going to, if we're going to solicit people from the public, but we shouldn't send that out until after sheep season. So I think important thing is for us to all think about it and get back together fairly soon to discuss it and adopt a final charge statement.
Okay, Jerry, thank you. So just to clarify, you'd like to announce the list of this working group committee after sheep season, but work on it until then?
Well, that's my suggestion, and especially to the extent that we're going to ask anybody to be on it. You know, a lot of the people who are interested are going to be out hunting sheep until sometime in mid to late September.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense, and I agree with that. And just so people know, my thoughts on this process part is I don't see any urgency in any hurry to move forward with this right away. I know sheep season has started, and I'd like to make sure we do all our due diligence, all our groundwork, I'll really flush this out and get to make sure we don't skip any steps. So I don't see any urgency in getting this done. There was some talk earlier from the public about how this, you know, some people thought that we were trying to get this in place before the spring meeting in Fairbanks next year, but I don't see that. That's not what I think is going to happen here. Go ahead, Jake.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I'm in complete agreement with you. I don't want to rush anything. I don't think we have a timeline for this, and I think it's really important to you know, formulate a great plan and formulate a you know, a great working group committee here, so that we in hopes that we can, you know, sometime in the future produce a great, you know, product. So.
All right. Thank you, Jake. So for the committee there, should we come up with a date here for this sometime after sheep season, which when does sheep season end, Ryan? The 20th of September?
Yeah, many of them will end by the 20th, and you know, there will be people coming out of the field obviously after that for a bit, but generally speaking, yes.
All right, so with that being noted, guys, do anyone want to give us a date for the next meeting for this group? Go ahead, Jake.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to be unavailable starting kind of the 2nd of October for the month of October. So if we could maybe perhaps schedule the next meeting till the end of September, that would be fantastic.
All right, Ryan, anyone have any hard dates for the end of September? Like I don't have a September calendar in front of me, but
Eh.
what's the 25th, Christy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I was going to ask for a couple clarifications based on what I heard. But to answer your question, the 25th, the week of September 25th is a Monday. So that's the last weekend in September. So I did hear member Burnett maybe mention 2 meetings, maybe having a subsequent committee meeting to finalize the charge statement and discuss who would be who would be invited, or what maybe criteria or what that membership would look like. And then there would be another meeting where the names folks are solicited, and then the committee would come back and make decisions on who to select. If I'm mistaken, though, please let me know, or would it just be one meeting? But at some point, there's a process for letting the public express their interest, and I'm not feeling like we're at that point now with this meeting. If that helps.
Yeah, thank you, Christy. That helps a lot. I agree with what you said. The next meeting will kind of formulate the list, and then we'll go from there, which is going to be sometime in the last week of September, if someone wants to give us propose a date. Go ahead, Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to point out that moose season ends in a lot of areas around September 25th. Also, I went back and thumbed through the book real quick, and many sheep seasons will go to September. I mean, it's getting pretty late, but September 20th as well. So that last week, we're thinking about a lot of the same folks will be interested in moose hunting. I'm going to give them a little bit of time to get out of the field as well.
Okay, thank you for that, Ryan. And with that being said, Jake, when do you get back? And will you be back the end of October, or will you be available early November?
So Stash, yeah, typically I'll be back here in Talkeetna by like the 10th of November.
So given that hunting seasons for various species will be, going through all of September and into October, and Jake gets back the 10th of November, does anyone want to come up with a meeting date with that information?
And Mr. Chairman, I can work with everybody to find a date that works for the committee. We don't have to set that right now, but knowing your time frame is helpful. If we're looking at the next meeting, not until after Jake returns, or are we looking at a meeting before then? The 2 meeting process, or just this one that would be early November?
Yeah, I'm okay with having a meeting after November 10th, if that works for the other committee members. Go ahead, Jake, did you raise your hand?
Thank you, Stash. I'm just kind of looking at the calendar here. I get what about like Monday the 13th of November?
Well, Jake, if that works for you, we'll let Mike coordinate with us to get the meeting date like Christy suggested. Will that work?
Yep.
Works for me.
We can set that as a tentative date meeting date, excuse me.
Okay, thank you, Christy. And yet, go ahead, Jake.
And thanks, Mr. Chair. And just to clarify, between then and now, we're all going to be kind of scratching our heads, figuring out what not specific people, but maybe stakeholders that should be represented in this committee.
Yeah, that's my thoughts. And would it be the process for that, Christy or Ryan, for us to submit these names? Would we just would we have to do that at the meeting that's declared in November?
That's the clarity I'm looking for from the committee. If that's the committee meeting where you want to select individuals to serve on this working group, then we want to make that clear for the public. I would put out some kind of a meeting notice and solicitation that the committee is looking at doing that. But at this point, you know, I'm not entirely clear, like who are we telling to, you know, put their names in? It's going to be, you know, do you want to have any more specifics about that, or just based on what you had said before, or just, you know, put the solicitation out there and see what you get and then decide, you know, who you're going to who you're going to choose to form that working group. So. But that's what I need to know is like, is that the meeting where you want to select the folks for the working group?
Yeah, I agree. Some type of solicitation is, I think, is a good idea, is to see who's interested, and then we could work with that group along with whatever names that we bring to that meeting that will happen in mid-November-ish. At least that's what I'm thinking. But I'd like to hear from Jerry or Jake about how they think it should roll out. Go ahead, Jake.
Hey, thanks, Stash. Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement with that. I guess my own one of my many questions I will have from now until the time this process is over is that you know, let's say that we're talking about a specific user group, and you have somebody that you think would fill that role great, and I have somebody that I think would fill that role great. Would it come to a vote between Jerry, yourself, and myself, or how would that work out?
Christy or Ryan, do you know how we handled those in the past working group committees, setting them up?
Well, I know for the 2015 sheep working group, it was the committee of 3 that selected those names. And I don't recall if you just all came to agreement. I don't remember that a voting took place on each name. I know that there was some discussion and then the names were announced. So that's not terribly helpful.
Well, all right, Christy, I'd like to see who's all interested, and if we get to a point where we end up in that situation, I guess we'll have to figure out how we're going to handle it at the meeting, whether it comes to a vote or I assume that's what we'll have to do if we have more than one name for a certain category. Go ahead, Christy.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I'm thinking about that Unit 15 sheep. I mean, excuse me, the 2015 sheep working group too. I know that working group was a huge working group, and certain stakeholders and specific agencies the committee wanted to have their representation on that working group. So for that one, we sent a letter to those user groups or stakeholders and asked them to provide a name to represent the group, but that they meet certain criteria for, you know, being willing to work with this group with, you know, to come out with compromises and solutions. So this is a little bit different scenario than that 2015 working group.
Yeah, thank you for that information, Christy. Because the way I see this, I think this working group is specifically for 19C sheep. So I think it's going to be a much smaller group than that one from before. And so it wouldn't go to a broad group as the other one did either, I don't think. But I'll just work on that with the other committee members. That's just my thoughts. Any other questions from committee members about, go ahead, Jake.
Hey, thanks, Stash. So I guess one way to go about this would be for, you know, to ask the public who they think the user groups that should be represented in this committee are, and then us have that feedback, and then, you know, we kind of decide whenever we formulate the committee if we're going to have a member from the Fairbanks AC or the chair from Fairbanks AC. That's pretty easy. We know that person. But if we say a private landowner, Then when the public expresses interest to participate, then they can say, I want to participate as the private landowner, instead of us having all these names and then trying to figure out where they fit into this, matrix.
Okay, that makes sense to me. So would we need to put out a category list for this group, working group, and then people can kind of advocate or apply for where they think they want to be, if that makes sense?
That would be helpful for me, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, go ahead, Jake. Thank you, Christine.
No, heck yeah. I mean, I think that makes sense. I know there's a lot of different ways to go about it, but I think that might be the easiest way to go about a selection. Selecting a future date, selecting a committee. We're not doing anything right now.
All right. Thank you, Jake. Well, Christy, what else do we need to help for this to roll out? We got a rough meeting date. Mike's going to work with us on that. And then we're going to put out a list to solicit sheeping work, 19C sheep working group. What's the term for it? Sheep working group positions.
Mm-hmm. And so for this next meeting, we will put the types of categories for membership. Is that what member Fletcher was agreeing to? Is that correct?
Go ahead, Jake.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I think that the next step here, in my personal opinion, would be for us to figure out, the different, the different positions or the different groups that are going to be represented in the committee, so we have an idea of not who's going to comprise the committee, but what is going to comprise the committee.
Thank you.
All right, Christy. I think we've covered all the basics to move on for the next meeting. Does anyone have anything to add to this before we? I think we're getting close to adjournment here.
So one thing to mention, Mr. Chairman, so we'll look at setting a meeting for that week of November 13th. That is around the time frame that the board also has the agenda change request teleconference. That date's not set. It'll be sometime mid-November, but it makes sense to me that would be after this working group, if it's possible to get, set those dates at that time. And then this committee could, at that meeting, give an update to the full board during that teleconference.
That makes sense, Christy, and thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and then just so it's crystal clear, the notice will distribute a notice for the next committee meeting to just basically say there will be further discussion about the committee membership and identifying the makeup of that working group, but not necessarily choosing. You're not choosing, then you're not soliciting names exactly to serve on that working group that will be selected at that time. Correct?
Right. Correct. Yes, Chrissy, thank you for noting that. And Ryan, did you have your hand raised?
No, Mr. Chairman, sorry, just an itch.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So with that being said, I can't think of anything else that we need for this. I think we covered our bases. Committee members, anything else?
No.
Nope. I think I'm good here, Stash. I think we got a good plan here.
Okay, I'd like to thank everyone for joining in today. I appreciate everyone's time and effort for this. And again, I'd just like to state that please bear with me. I'm rarely play this role in these board of games as chairman. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to need a lot of help from Christy and other committee members. But again, thank you, Christy, for setting this up, and I look forward to working with the department and other stakeholders in the efforts for this 19C working group. And Carolyn Brown, are you raising your hand? Okay. Well, thank you,
Sorry,
everybody.
I realized you couldn't see me. No, Sash, I'm not.
Okay.
Okay,
I thought you came up.
Mr.
ahead,
Chair,
Jerry.
would you like a motion to adjourn?
I do. I pick and
Move that we adjourn.
do we need a second for that? No.
I think we usually have a second.
I second
Okay.
that.
Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
And,
everybody.
I'll brush up on my chairman skills.
I look forward to working with you, Chairman Hoffman, on this.
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Thanks,
Happy
Thanks,
Monday.
everyone.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you guys very
Bye.
much.
Bye.